Our communication project. Over oil in China. Topics to be covered: the history of economics, history of oil, territorial disputes, supply and demand, export and import, exploration and production, and energy sources. Background of China. The population of China reaches a 1.3 billion. The type of government is a communist nation. The type of market is a socialist market economy. How big is China? It's 3.7 million square miles. Put that in perspective. The history of economics. China used to be isolated from the rest of the world's economy. Eventually, they will make a switch to a free market economy for the most part. Since the switch, their GDP has increased by 8% each year. Refer to the graph for the GDP increase. The history of oil. China was not a major producing oil country in the past, and it still isn't. China has produced mostly low-quality oil from their fields. Poor offshore oil development leads to more onshore drilling. Refer to the picture for low-quality oil from their fields. Territorial disputes. These land disputes occurred in the eastern China Sea and the southern China Sea. The eastern sea contains two gas fields that China fought over with Japan. China will eventually contain the airspace control and the two gas fields, but they will sign an agreement with Japan, signing over the two gas fields for them to share. China also in the southern sea had disputes with Vietnam and the Philippines. Eventually China controls the southern sea, but will share it with Vietnam and the Philippines. Refer to the picture for the land disputes. The supply and demand. The demand of oil in China overcomes the supply for oil. The consumption on a per day basis reaches 10.3 million barrels per day based on government data. China currently holds the world's largest oil reserves, 164 trillion cubic feet. China has been working on solving their high demand for oil by fuel-efficient cars and government regulations. Refer to the graph. The export and imports. China used to believe in not importing any goods, that they should become a self-sustained country. Now China heavily relies on their other countries for their oil supply. Their oil imports from 2000 were being 30%. It has reached a 57% as of 2014. Most of their oil comes from Middle Eastern countries. Refer to the graph for the amount of oil they get from Middle Eastern countries. The exploration. China has a minimal amount of offshore rigs, but one field is extremely large, producing more than 50% of their reserves. Currently, offshore drilling has been taking place in the Yellow Sea, South China Sea, and East China Sea. These fields are small and will not last long. Onshore has experienced heavy investments to keep up with its new reserves in processing infrastructure. Production. China has found some of the most state-of-the-art oil recovery techniques, such as ERC, stem flooding, and polymer flooding, making their oldest fields still producing, all the way to the last drop. Their oldest fields still produce 200,000 barrels per day. 20% of their production comes from offshore fields. Energy resources. China is not only the top oil consumer in the world, but also the top consumer of coal, nuclear energy, natural gas, and hydroelectric energy. China has become the largest country of generating power. They are currently working on switching to hydroelectric power for a cleaner alternative and lesser industrial output.